Hello the world, hello the internet, hello Jason Isaacs at the back there. We're here today to talk about democracy in the UK and specifically how you go about answering a democracy question, any democracy question. They're really interesting because they appeal largely, in my experience as an examiner, to one of two people. The first people to whom democratic questions appeal are the guys who are completely on top of the subject. They come in and they nail this. They absolutely destroy the question. They smash it clean out the ground. The other type of people to whom this appeals, and excuse me if I get a bit sweary now, are the bullshitters. These are the people who just think, oh my God, I can't answer any of the other questions. I'm going to bluff my way through a democracy question. And based on my experience as an examiner, this generally is what it gets. You tend to get very few middle ground questions on democracy. They're either smashed absolutely or they are catastrophes. Now, one of the big issues with answering a question on democracy is that sometimes it feels like you're trying to nail jelly to a wall. And what I'm going to try to do in this particular presentation is to give you a framework that's going to help you answer any question on democracy. And I think this works whether you're doing A-level politics or doing undergraduate politics or whatever. You need a framework. You need some sort of structure. And the structure I use is the Economist Intelligence Unit. They produce a democracy index every year. This is just a snapshot of the 2015 picture. And they take all of our countries, or all the countries they reckon, the 167 countries covered by this particular index, and that's pretty much the entire world population, and so they claim anyway. Now, how do they assess democracy? Well, before we get on to that, let's just remember that in democracy in the UK, we've got a peculiar type of democracy. We have representative democracy, and this little exchange here between the Foreign Secretary and Richard Dawkins, I think, makes clear the type of democracy that we have here. We have that representative democracy as opposed to direct democracy. Direct democracy, as you'll know from my earlier presentation, a wonderful thing, without a shadow of a doubt, never makes a single mistake. So yeah, tremendous. Democracy generally, I suppose, falls into that sort of category. Anyway, democracy. We have two types. We have representative democracy, we have direct democracy. If we look at direct democracy, we have the Athenian model, which is when everyone gets together and decides, and closest example we have that nowadays is probably Switzerland. Or we have the referendums and other electronic direct democracy devices. So those are the two methods of direct democracy you need to know about. When we move over to representative democracy, again, we've got two types. We've got the delegate representation, where the delegate does exactly what his constituents want. And then we've got the Burkean model, where occasionally the representative might turn around to the people and say, well, I respect your opinion, but you're wrong, and you're wrong for these reasons. Now, either way, both of these bring about the issue of choice and accountability. You choose your representative and then you hold them accountable. Obviously, that is not something that applies over here. The only people accountable for the appalling decisions they make in referendums is us. Right, so that's the sort of broad overview of democracy. Some definitions here that are going to help you get your way through that. And just on this one, if your systems of choice and your systems of accountability are working, then necessarily the government has to operate in the interests of the people. Otherwise, it's not going to get re-elected. So if your choice system, if your electoral system is broken, if your accountability system is broken, then the government simply does not have to operate in the interests of the people. But if these two things here are functioning, then the government necessarily has to bear in mind that it will be held to account, it will be subject to choice, and if they're not doing their job, the people will get rid of them. So your essay plan will perhaps look something like this: every year, blah, blah, blah. Well, you can read that. There's a lot of stuff on here that's going to pop up, and I'm not going to read it to you because by this stage in the game, you should be more or less able to read. If you're not, then perhaps we've got a bigger issue that we need to talk about later. So from time to time, you're going to have to pause this, read the questions, and then think about the answers. So anyway, this is how we're going to start. The EIU offers us 5 assessment criteria. What are they? Is the next question. Well, this is they. The electoral process and pluralism, functioning of government. I did say you could read, so hey, just read it, all right? Now, what I suggest you do as we're going through this is that you decide the scores. You tell me what you think each of these particular ideas is worth, or how the UK would score on this. Now, to give you a bit of context, This is the 2015 numbers, and yeah, spoiler alert, we're not in the top 5, and yeah, we're still not in the top 5. But you will have to try to work out where we go. So the maximum you can get in each of these is 10. As we go through this, give the UK a score of 10 out of 10 based upon where you think we are. So we are going to start with the electoral process and pluralism. And these are the questions you should be asking yourself. Feel free to pause, read them, and then we'll move on. And now we're moving on. So what can we say about the UK? Well, we have elections. They're free, fair, and regular. We know that. We have a minimal rate of voter fraud. Generally speaking, most elections are pretty fair and accurate. We don't have any banned parties. We have pretty much universal suffrage. Obviously, 8 to 16-year-olds, tough. We have relatively transparent. Again, you're able to read. You know all of these things. On the other hand, we know that our first past the post system is appalling. It just doesn't return any result that resembles the input. We have a low level of voter turnout, and of course we have the asymmetric devolution that you know all about. So in terms of electoral process and pluralism, the picture, I think it's fair to say, is mixed. Functioning of government, again, pause and read those and have a think about it. I assume you've had a think about it. Let's have a look at how we measure up. So we have parliamentary government, we have parliamentary sovereignty. Both of those, in theory, put our elected representatives in the box seat. Our elected representatives, should be in the box seat, but of course we know that the tail wags the dog, and for all of those reasons. So again, we're going back here, we're looking at Unit 2, we're looking at how the government actually functions, and when we come to look at that in sum, again, I think it's fair to say the picture is mixed. So based on that, what would you give the UK out of 10? Have a think about that. The next category is civil liberties. Again, you can read all of that yourself. Is the system blah, 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 blah. On the other, so we come over here, we have the Human Rights Act, we have the independent judiciary, we have free press and electronic media. However, on the other hand, we have all of these. And of course, at this point, I realize that my presentation is out of date because we haven't got the Investigatory Powers Act of 2016, which is, if you don't know, brutal and horrible. Anyway, there we go. So Investigatory Powers Act, that is definitely on this side of the equation, in case there's anyone being confused there. Blah, 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 blah. You can read that yourself. Now give the UK a score. Again, we're marking them out of 10. We can move on to political culture. I think that's really pretty straightforward. And again, have a read of that. And these, I think, are the various criteria or the various ideas that you will want to use. Again, give the UK a mark out of 10, see what you think. Political participation, again, pause, read these questions, have a think about them. The ideas here are going to be that we have all of that on that hand, but on the other hand, we have all of this. So again, a mixed picture. Please do pause these, read them, think about them, make sure you've got the evidence that's going to support any point that you choose to make. The results, well, I'm not going to tell you what they are. You can go to the Economist Intelligence unit yourself and find out. Now this should be actually, I will hyperlink this and we will mark off, I will link off to this in the final presentation. So the links to this will be in the footnotes. Do please send me any questions you've got. I hope that helps. Again, the principal issue here is trying to get a working structure so you don't find yourself bullshitting and waffling your way through this subject like so many second-rate students do. You're not a second-rate student. I look forward to talking to you later. Bye now.